Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm. Today we're going to be talking about loom knitting. I know you're familiar with knitting with 2 needles. There's another kind of knitting that is done on a loom. This is a very old way of knitting, and it frees you up from using all the needles. I love working with yarns, so I started loom knitting, and this is a very, you might think that you're limited in scope of what you can do, but there are so many different kinds of looms out there now that you can make almost anything. The first type that most people start with, hat looms. They're just the regular circular loom. Here's a large one. I have one even bigger than this. That's an antique one. Because this is a very large one. This is an antique wood one. And it's really hard to find modern plastic ones that are this big. But I love this one because it lets you make big tote bags and purses. And this one is a big tote bag that I made out of sari ribbon, mostly from Darn Good Yarn. They employ women in India to use fabric remnants from the fashion world for making saris. Sewed a fabric liner inside, and I added 2 metal. A tip on the handles. In craft stores, sometimes the wood and the metal handles can get sort of pricey. A lot of times you can go to garage sales and get a purse or another tote bag that has wood or has metal handles on it that you can take off. You can sometimes get that purse or tote bag for a quarter, 50 cents, and just go home and cut off the part that you don't want and save your handles. And it's a real easy way and inexpensive way to get a hold of those handles. But I'll just let you see close up here. It's this loom. It almost looks like a bunch of braids, but it was really fun to make. I've made several of these big ones. But most people are going to start. You're not going to start with one of these large ones for your first project. That is usually you're going to graduate to that. That's a harder situation there. You might be familiar with these old daisy wheels. Now these you can use the center like a teeny tiny little loom, and these are good for making doll socks, doll hats. I make the little they look like little socks that go on the ends of my dinette chairs so they don't make noise when they're being scraped across the floor. You can make all kinds of little things with this, but anyway, the little daisy wheels, you can actually use the middle. So you have a bigger one. This is more for like a purse. You have an adult size hat, which I don't seem to have, so it means I've got it somewhere in process probably. This is like a child's hat. This is a scarf loom, and now this is a different thing. I'll do a separate video on this. Today we're going to be working on socks. I will do a separate hat one, and I will do a separate scarf one, and I will also do a separate Afghan. This is a Afghan loom. This again is not a beginning project. This you want to make several projects before you get to this, because this can drive you nuts. There are times when I've made countless Afghans, and there's times where I have to stop and go, wait, what am I doing? Because it seems more complicated. What you've got is on one of these ends, you don't connect it. So it actually is like a full-length Afghan, because it's sort of, think about like you folded your Afghan in half, and that's what's coming out of here. We also have these adjustable looms. The adjustable looms allow you to do, like, I can move this all the way down. I can do sweaters, I can do scarves on this, I can do socks on this. You see I have a little one that I made. I was making some little socks. You can do hats. You can do almost anything on this. This, again, is not a beginning one. This is one when you already know so the whole dynamics of loom knitting, and you can sort of figure out the construction of projects. So I don't use a lot. I'm not a person that uses a lot of pattern books and things. I look at something and I copy it. We're going to be focusing on sock looms. They make plastic ones now. They make oval ones. I have not tried the oval ones, mostly because this is my favorite one. I can adjust this to any size. I can make small children's size socks. It mostly stays on this side. This size will mostly fit everybody in the family. They're a little big on me and my daughters, but depending on what kind of material you use, usually it's going to shrink. So you always count on it's going to look bigger the first time before you wash it, and then it will shrink. Really, if I want it to fit really well, I need to have my thing moved down here about this much, and this square will fit me and my two daughters. So this is the adjustable one. You can also buy, and these are usually cheaper and less expensive, one that's just already done. This is sort of a universal sock size. It's going to be a little big for some people, depending on your feet. My daughters and I all wear 7.5 shoe. So we have a little bit smaller than normal feet. I think fits everybody in the family. It's just a matter of some will be a little big and some a little small. Now I wouldn't do socks that you wear every day on this one. This is more for like slipper socks. And that happens to be my favorite thing to make. I like making slipper socks. So they don't have to fit exactly right. I'm not putting my foot in a sock in a shoe. I'm just wearing them around the house. And they're warm, and they're fun to make because you can make them in colorful colors that you're not going to really wear outside. A smaller round one, you can do, this is made out of t-shirt yarn. Again, recycled t-shirts. You can just cut t-shirts into a strip and make like a skein of yarn out of it with t-shirts. Or you can also buy them already done from craft stores now. This is a little harder to do. Again, the give, you would think it would have a lot of give because it's t-shirt, but it's so bulky that, again, it's a little difficult. But it's fun once you get started. You can use these little things. One year I put all the teacher gifts in these, and you can use them for pencils. You can put a pot down in there and use it as a cover for a plant. They're just, since it's t-shirt, it's a thicker container, and it will actually stand on its own. So that's something fun to do with the small round one. So it's not just I've seen people use the t-shirt yarn and make a big bowl, and then you can either add liquid starch and make it stiff, or you can just use it as is. Like I said, they're pretty durable. So today, let me show you an example. So here's an example of a slipper sock. This is orange. I love orange. This is my high school alma mater color, and I really like doing the stripe. And I like variegated yarns that do different colors. And the heel, I'm going to show you how to do the heel and how to do the cuff. And we're just going to, a lot of it's repetitious. Like you just knit, 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 knit. Each stitch on here, you're going to put on your loom. Every single stitch. So this is a craft that requires patience. But again, it's a great project to do sitting watching TV or waiting at the airport or whatever you got to do if you travel. Just you can throw it in a baggie with your loom and your yarn, and you use a little hook. This hook is what you'll be using the loom with. So I'm going to use this one that's already done. That's the one we're going to use. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to get started, and obviously I'm not going to sit here. It takes about, I would say about 6 hours to finish one sock. I don't ever sit there from start to finish. So this is a project that sits by my chair in the living room in a basket, and I work on it for about 30 minutes to an hour every night maybe when I'm doing it. The video may not be all in one sitting because it's going to take me, I'll do up to the cuff and show you how to do the cuff. I'm going to show you how to do the stripe. It'll take me a few hours to get down here, and the heel is a whole nother situation. So you can do it just like a tube sock. If you don't want to mess with the heel, you can just do one whole big tube, and I'll show you how to finish them. But for right now, I'm just going to get started and show you the how to start your sock. We will do other videos on the other projects, but this is just the sock loom knitting. So you start out with your loom and your yarn, and what you're going to do is you're going to make a small loop, just like a little loop here, and you're going to tie a knot so you have a little loop. And some looms will have a little niche, a little notch on one of the corners to indicate where you start. This might have, but it's pretty worn now from my hands. Here it is. Here's the part of the notch. So you just put it, that's your starting. Doesn't really matter. You just need to know where to start every time. Here we have, these look like keys or teeth. I'm going to put my loop on the end one. Now here's what we're going to do. You take your yarn and you're going to wrap it around the first key. And you're just going to keep wrapping it around. So you're wrapping it towards you. Sorry, I'm really going to try to keep this so you can see it, but once in a while I turn it. I'm obviously not used to doing a video while I'm working, so I have to make a conscious decision to keep it where you can see it and try to keep my hand out of the way. So you wrap it all the way around. Now, to start, you're going to do something a little different because you have to make 2 rows because each row connects to the previous row. So I'm going to move my threads down, my yarn down, my loops here, and then I'm going to go back around again. So, and then I'm going to go back around again. Wrap it towards you. Good to push them down a little bit. You don't want them on top of each other. You want a little bit of a space between every one of them. So, what's next? Now you need to secure your yarn. In each one of these keys is like a little gutter. It's the best way I can say it. It's like a little line in the metal. If you have plastic, then it'll be a line in the plastic. This is for your hook. Your hook can slide down in there. So you see you got the first row that we wrapped, and here's my second row that I wrapped. I want to put my hook down in that loop. I want to hold the other yarn securely, that is, and then I want to my loop, and I want to pull that bottom loop over the top loop. And then I'm going to go around and do that all the way around. You can see how it can, once you get the hang of it, it goes very rapidly around and around and around. What happens if you miss a stitch or you drop a stitch? I usually will gather up whatever loop was on top of it and try to pull it over. And if not, then you're going to have to wait till your finished project is done, and you're going to have to take a little bit of yarn. You're going to have to sew that little loop together, because it will leave a little hole. So you'll just have to sew the little hole together. Turned our 2 rows into one, and you can see what it sort of looks like on the inside there. All right, let me do another row. Now, I like to push mine down. The thickness of your yarn will determine the thickness of your socks. Remember that these socks don't have elastic in this yarn. So you can buy, and I'll show you this when we get done with the cuff. You can buy colored elastic. It looks like this elastic thread. And you can actually sew, like, go through the top and sew the elastic in if you want elastic. Of the sock fabric forming here. Trying to get it so you can see. There we go. It's becoming like, as these get woven together, one loop of the other. It's sort of like hooking a loop over a loop over a loop. It's becoming like a fabric. This is my top of my index fingers. Yours may vary. Is almost an inch. So I usually try to use my index finger. I either use it an inch or a little bit more. Whatever the first sock turns out, that's the one that you go by for the second sock. Since I want the cuff to be 1 inch wide, I need to have 2 inches done, because this is going to get folded over. And as you can see on the inside, there's a cuff, and on the outside, so this needs to be about 2 inches wide. So I need to have 2 inches, about 2 inches of sock fabric formed before I make my cuff. So, and then I'm going to come back and I will show you how to fold it over and make the cuff. Hi. Okay, so it's late at night now. I got the rest knitted until the point where I needed to show you how to make the cuff. Alright, so if you remember, we were talking about needing to get about 2 or 2.5 inches worth of the sock fabric knitted, and you can see how you can see each stitch there is sort of. I'm going to show you how we make a cuff. Okay, so this is the inside of the sock. This is the outside of the sock. So while you're looking down into your loom is the inside of your project. To make the cuff, first of all, I'm going to pull it up. Now be very gentle because you don't want to pull it off your little teeth here. And I'm going to look for that. Remember that loop that we tied to begin with. And remember, you can find it because it's usually got the little tail. That's why I leave the tail to the, the very end. Sometimes I can weave it in. I don't have to cut it off. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it back on that very first peg. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hook, and this is a little tricky the first time, but you'll get the more you practice, the better you'll get on it. So you want to go find each loop, the very first loops that you made, and you're going to pull those over the teeth. I usually go really fast at this, but I'm trying to do it so you can see it. Do a few, and then I'll put the camera up close. You just pull them over the teeth. So you can see the, let's see if I can pull one up here. Here you go. So here is so I have all my, you can see I have the inside is now, let's see if it's like the cuff of a sock or a sweater sleeve or whatever you want to call it. It looks like a cuff. And you can see here's the original line is right here, the ones that I pulled over. And what I'm going to do, just like we've been doing, now this is a little tricky because you got to keep the original row on there. I'm going to pull these up and over. So my cuff, you can see now that it looks like a cuff in there instead of just a flat piece. So now what? So now we have our cuff in here. Now, I like to do, let me show you. I like to do a stripe on my socks. I tend to stay with the same sort of pattern just because the yarn is always different. I change up the yarn. That's the fun part. But I sort of have a pattern, something that I prefer to do. I like to make my cuff about 1 inch, and then I like to do about another inch of just stitching again. Another inch of just stitching again. And then I will switch to a whatever color that I'm going to make my heel and my stripe out of. And that's also, that one's a little bit longer than 1 inch. Sometimes I just have so much fun with the color changes and stuff and make it a little wider. But if you can see, there's like 1 inch, about 1 inch. And then there's going to be this long part in here that is the long part of the sock there. So that one takes longer. So what I need to do now is just, even though you have the cuff, it might seem like something different. But you're going to do just like exactly what you've been doing to make the sock fabric that we turned inside and made the cuff out of. You're going to go around. I'm going to use this to make, it's about the same weight as, that's another thing I should say, if you're making stripes, make sure your yarn is the same weight so it doesn't look odd. You know, you don't want to have a thicker yarn and a thinner yarn for the stripe. It sort of shrink in where the stripe is. So try to make your yarns the same weight. So that's the cuff. And so what I will do now, so I'm going to do my inch of stitching, and when I come back, I'll have that done, and we'll do the stripe, and I'll show you how to do the stripe. So inside you can start to see, you see like a little, you see the cuff, and then you can see like the little, like a indentation or a gutter or a row there where it's joining, and then these are starting to join and form the fabric inside. I'll show you what it looks like inside the, so this is inside the sock, and that's what, when it starts coming out, you'll start seeing that, you'll see the inside part. I didn't think I was going to get to it tonight, but I actually got my the inch done that I needed to get, so I can show you how to do the stripe. So let's look inside. Here we go. It looks just like, it's like starting to look longer, and the cuff is coming out of the center and underneath here. That brings us to the stripe. Now, there's lots of ways to do this, and I'm just going to tie a knot. I poke the knot through so it doesn't show on the outside, and I pull it through onto the inside, and there you go. I mean, who's looking at the inside of your sock anyway? So now I have my regular red yarn and the new yarn that's going to be doing the stripe. Gonna do exactly what I've been doing, wrapping it around the teeth towards me, and there goes my yarn. Is changing now to the striped yarn. What's going to be making the stripe. Now your stripe can be as long as you want it. Okay, so you can see here's my yarn has changed. It's like red, 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 and then it slowly changes to the new yarn. Now, so I'm going to go around, and I remember I was using the top of my index finger as sort of my little built-in ruler. And I'm going to do about 1 inch. Okay, you can start to see now the what am I trying to say? You can start to see the stripe now coming into existence around on the sock. And I'm going to do that for another, like I said, another inch or so, inch and a half, and that will be my stripe. And then when I'm ready to change back to the body of the sock, I'm going to do exactly what I did. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to join the edges with a solid knot, and I'm going to begin resume stitching. But I'll come back when I have my stripe done, and we'll look at the stripe before we start on with the body. I got my stripe done, and I'm going to show you the stripe, and then I'm going to show you how to start on the body of the sock. So you can see inside, and you can see the stripe that I did. It's about an inch wide, a little bit more than an inch wide. You can't really, you can see it sort of down in the crack there, but you can also see how the sock is starting to come out more, and how the cuff is in there. So what I'm going to do, just like I did when I made the cuff, I'm going to cut a bit of the yarn, and I'm going to tie the ends together. Then I'm just going to begin so I will go work on the body of this sock, and when I come back I'm going to be doing this. So we've done this cuff, we've done our stripe, now I need to go do this part. What I usually use is I use, like I said, I like to use my fingers and my hands a lot as my judge, and usually I will use from my top of my middle finger to the knuckle on my wrist, so I can just put the palm on there, and that also I can use parts of the sock itself. Like I want the foot part to be almost the length of the top part of the sock. It's just a sort of an easy way to gauge it, that you don't have to go around holding on to a tape measure, or you know. I am going to go work on the body of my sock. So what we're going to do now is I've, knitted all the way down to where I want the heel to be. Now I'm just going to cut off like we did before, and I'm going to... Now, it's a little bit different when you do your heel. On your loom, if you see this, you have 4 sides, obviously, you have a rectangle. So what we're going to be using is just this L, this one long side and one short side, and we're going to be doing, we're going to go all the way to, from peg to peg. I think it's 25 or 28, I can't remember how many pegs. And then we'll come back, and every time we come back we're going to get a peg shorter until we meet here in the middle. And then we're going to start spreading. We're going to, every time we do a row, we're going to move out a peg. So that's what we're going to do, is we'll end up making this heel. It will go around, and it will get narrower and narrower and narrower until we meet in the middle, and then we'll go back out again, and then eventually we'll hook back to our regular yarn, and we will make the foot of the sock. It's going to make a rounded sort of situation here. It's going to make a heel. You can make like a tube sock if you didn't want to mess with the heel. I'm going to do my L, and here we have the changeover of the yarn to the other colors. Reached that. Now I'm just going to, and this first one is usually a little difficult because it's tight, because I'm not going all the way around. Oh no, I broke the thread. Okay, if you break the thread, I'll have to come back and sew that. So I need to do a double one, because I have to have something to link this one too. So that's something, if you break the thread, don't panic. Just after your sock is done, you'll have to go find that hole, and you'll have to you'll have to sew it. Okay. So okay, push those down. All right, now I'm on the 3rd peg. So I'm going to do, hoping, and here's the 3rd peg. So I think instead of me sitting here and doing this for the next 30 minutes and you just watching me do it, I'm going to work it. I'm going to go ahead and knit it till I get to the point where I need to reverse and start going back out. And then we will come back and I'll start showing you that. And I'll show you what it looks like when we've gotten to this point in the middle before I want to expand my heel again. Okay, I've completed my rows except for now I'm down to, you know how we removed one over each time for each row at each end. Now I'm down to just the last 3. So I want to do since I don't want to do just one, because if I moved in one each, because it make it a little point, I'm just going to do 3 again here. So this row will be 3. Now this is going to be the starting row for my expanding. So let me wrap my row and then we'll take a look at what I got. I just don't want to lose my place here. So if these were my 3, my last 3, 1, 2, 3. Now I want to go 1, 2, 3. There's my original 3, and then 1 plus 1. So I have the original 3 in the middle, and I have done a peg on each side. So let me lock that one in. So we have 5 now. Let's look on the inside. You can sort of see how it is turning in. Let me see if I can get my fingers in there. You can see it, sort of see where it's turning in here. It's like getting a little round in there. That's the starting of the heel here. So I'm going to turn my 5 over. Now it's easy to know where you last were because here's my thread, here's my yarn. So now I want to go 1 more. So I had 5, so now I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you do your original ones and then you add 1 on each end. So this one will be 7. Next time I expand, I'm going to do 9. So now we're going to do 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the first set of wrappings when we started the heel were decreasing a peg at a time and 2 pegs at a time on each end. Now we are increasing. And you see we're getting closer to filling out. We're going to go all the way until I get to the L. So I'm all the way. I've finished, and you can see how the heel is sort of curled in there. And you can see part of it now outside of the sock. You can see that it's rounded. So I would like to have a little bit of a stripe that goes all the way around, sort of blending the colors before I move back to my other color. So I'm just going to go and wrap my loom all the way around the entire rectangle, just like if I was doing regular rows. Three rows on this yarn, and then I'm going to cut it and join it back with the red that the body of the sock is made out of. So let me do a little bit here. I have finished my stripe, and You can see more of the heel now coming out from the back. Alright, so I did my stripe and I left a little bit of the multicolored yarn here and I joined it back to my red. For the next about 8 or 9 inches, I'm just going to continue rows until it's time to finish the sock. I am going to show you how to finish off your sock. I finished the foot of the sock, and let's take a look at it. So here is your heel that we finished, and we have to repair that hole. I'm going to show you how to do that. You can see it's very sock-like now, and I have done the foot of it, and now I'm going to show you how to take it off the loom. First of all, you need to cut your thread, and I would leave about 18 to 24 inches. You need a large needle. You can buy blunt end needles at the craft store, plastic ones. Look in the knitting or crochet area. You want to go in those grooves in the sock loom, how there's the grooves on each peg. Slide your needle into the loop, pull it off. You're going to go all the way around and put each loop onto your yarn. And what you're going to be doing is it's going to gather. You're going to pull it like a purse string. Last one. Alright, and now we have basically a drawstring. I'm going to put my heel is on the bottom just like it would be if I was wearing this sock. I'm going to draw it up. I don't want to do it too tight because I don't want it to be too bunched up. And then I'm just going to use the remaining yarn to sew it closed. I sort of do just a blanket stitch, and I do have a demo on sewing a blanket stitch if you are unfamiliar with how to do that. So make sure your stitch is in there good and cut it. And there's your sock. Now we do have this hole, so how are we going to fix that hole? Little tricky. So you want to take your needle and you'll see all the loops. There's really no good way to do this, and you want to just pull it out, and you're gonna have to, since you can't really do it like regular sewing, tie a knot. You're just gonna tie the yarn there, and then you're gonna reach down in here and a couple rows away and just pull it. Now if you see a loop that you can fit your needle through, by all means go through that little loop. It'll simulate the stitch a little bit better. There you have it. There's your end of the sock. One thing you can do, since socks, unless you're using elastic sock yarn, most sock yarns are very thin, and they might be a little elasticized, but they're not going to be like you're used to buying socks in the store. So if you want that, what you need to do is buy elastic thread, and it comes in various colors. But so like I have this orange elastic thread, and what I would just do is just loosely go around and sew a few lines of stitches and then tighten them up a little bit so it would have some stretch. Another thing you can do if you want to make slipper socks, and I make a lot of slipper socks, is felt or suede soles. This is just a thick felt, and it has holes pressed in it. You can buy like Sherpa wool ones at Walmart. The problem is here, they're like $19.99 a pair just for the soles. I can't afford that. So what I went to do, I bought a pair. I went to like Goodwill and bought the largest size suede skirt I could find, and I cut my own, and I just sewed them on. I'll leave some pictures of this sock and other socks down at the end of the video. And thank you for joining us. This has been Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm. Bye.